Hey everyone, it's Coach Mike. I am back with a new video, and today we're going to talk about should you do hard sparring. So the short answer is yes, but also in a way no, and let me explain. So first of all, if you have a competition coming up, say you're 5, maybe even 4 weeks out from a fight, then yes, I do agree you need to do some hard sparring. The technical sparring is great for your timing, your rhythm, and it gives you a chance to try some techniques you normally wouldn't try. But when you start going more live, and I'm sure people can testify to this, sometimes you forget those techniques and you need to just go back to the basics, just a 1-2 switch kick or 1-2-3, go to the body. It's really hard to do all the techniques you've worked when it's go time. And one of my friends, she even had something really good to say. She said that when you go into your fight, you don't take all your skills with you. And I think that is so true. There's been times when I've got done with fights and I'll think to myself as I'm walking back, I'm like, oh man, that's right. I was gonna throw a 1-2-3 high kick, or I was gonna go to a push kick, to a low kick, and then to a high kick. And there's just some things you had planned that you just didn't quite execute. You kind of had to just go on instinct and just go back to the basics. So I think that tends to happen a lot when you fight. And when you do too much technical sparring, you think that, okay, cool, I'm feeling really good. I'm doing a lot of techniques that I've been practicing. But when it comes time to fight, a lot of that kind of falls in the background and you have to go back to your basics and just work on your instinct. So as far as focusing on more technical sparring, I have friends and I've actually worked with some coaches that have actually went to Thailand to train. And they said that they do not spar hard in Thailand because they're fighting every 2 weeks. So they typically fight about twice a month. And you don't want to get yourself hurt in sparring. So what they'll do is they'll do like maybe 30%, maybe even 40%, and just work on timing. And it's more of like a play spar. And then they give it all they have on the heavy bag and on the Thai pads. But then when it comes to sparring, it's a little bit more playful. And of course, they'll do clinch fighting. They'll work in the clinch for about 30 minutes at a time and just work on their timing and their sweeps. So in that regard, I do think it's better if you're going to fight more frequently, if you're going to fight up to once or even twice a month, then yeah, I agree. You need to keep your sparring a little bit more technical and just focus more on your fight. However, in the US, we tend to do things a little bit different here. We often only fight maybe 3, sometimes 4 times a year. And there's a significant gap between fights. So to try to keep our edge, we tend to go a little bit too hard in training, especially in the sparring. And there's been lots of times when fighters will have to pull out because they hurt their knee or they got their bell rung or they might have got concussed in sparring. So for me personally, I used to do hard sparring every week. It was every Friday from 5:30 until 7 p.m. And I understand why we did it, because we want to kind of simulate like the fight feeling you get because it's on a Friday. And honestly, it's actually kind of, be honest with you, it's actually kind of hard to spar on Friday evening because you're a little bit tired from the week, you're tired from training. And especially if you got a girlfriend or your buddies want to hang out and you just want to go to like a nice dinner, maybe just grab just like a light drink or somebody's birthday. But it's like, ah, man, we got to go out and bang it out in the gym. So in that regard, it makes sense because it does keep you mentally sharp. But I'll be honest with you, there were times when I was just like dreading it. And I'm sure some people in the comment section can let me know. It doesn't even have to be boxing or kickboxing. Do you remember those days when you would have to go to practice in high school and it's a nice day out, it's like 85 degrees and your friends are going out having fun and you think to yourself like, man, I really don't want to go to this practice right now because it's going to be hard and long. So the same kind of feeling, in a way, it does help you because it just helps you with your mental toughness. But there's just times when you just kind of dread it. And for me, it got to that point where I was starting to dread Fridays. It would be about 2:30 on a Friday, and I'm already getting that feeling in my stomach, like, man, like who's gonna be there tonight? Like, man, I don't know how hard I want to go. And there was a lot of killers in this gym I was going to. And one of my main sparring partners, I'll leave his name out of it, just because I don't want to name drop just for clicks. But as I tell the story, you'll probably be able to figure out who it is. And if you want me to tell you, I can even leave it in the comment section. So I was going with, I'll leave his name out of it, but I was going with the number 2 ranked kickboxer in Glory. This is about 5-6 years ago. Might have been about 6, almost 7 years ago. And we would just throw down. I mean, it was just like, it was, that same feeling you get, your heart sinks and you're like, okay, here we go. And I remember one day he was getting ready for a tournament because he actually fought in 3 tournaments in Glory. And I remember he's like, all right, Mike, I got a tournament coming up and I want to go 4 to 5 rounds straight with you. And there were 5-minute rounds. And I just remember, I'm sure I had a funny look on my face. Just the feeling of dread came over me because I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a long sparring session. So, I went ahead and did it. I'm thankful I did it, but I took a beating. And I remember I was actually engaged at the time. And I remember I was walking up to my apartment. I was living on the 3rd floor. And my fiance at the time, she had to literally help me up the stairs because my legs were so battered and beaten from the hard sparring. And she straight up just looked at me. She's like, Mike, you got to do something else. You can't just keep like banging your body up like this every Friday without taking a fight. And from that moment, honestly, even she saw, because she's not a fighter herself, but even she saw that I was going too hard. I was like, wow, I think you're right. I need to make a change. So I kind of stopped the hard sparring and focused a little bit more just on the training and fitness and weight training and cardio and being more technical. And I think that was the right decision. So all in all, I do think it was good that I went through, we used to call it the Battle Dome or the Shark Tank. I'm glad I did that for about 5 years, but I think I kind of paid my dues. So for me, I don't like to spar too hard too often, but I do like to do it before a fight just to make sure you have a good gut check and make sure you're mentally sound and you're ready to go. And I'll tell you another story. So I had this young guy. He was probably about 2 weight classes under me. So he had to have been fighting at probably maybe 145, maybe 155. Honestly, there might have been 3 weight classes now I think about it, because I fight at 185, I fight at 195, and even 205. So obviously, I'm not going to just lay into this guy. I mean, there's about a good 50 pounds difference between us. So we're just sparring, and things are going all right. And then all of a sudden, he just blasts me like, bam. So I was like, okay, so I'll kind of let that one go. And about 10 seconds later, he blasts me again. So I was like, all right. So I decided to just proceed to bang, hit him with a cross, more as a warning shot to say, hey, let's just kind of keep this civilized. Let's calm it down. And to my surprise, about 15 seconds later, he blasts me again. So I'm like, all right, I'll fire a warning shot number 2. So boom. So I hit him a little bit harder this time. So I'm like, all right, hey, let's keep this civilized. And sure enough, he hit me again. And then I pretty much just lost it. And at that point, I just pretty much just proceeded to take him out. And everyone thought it was pretty entertaining to watch. I mean, I do feel a little bit bad about it now, but it's like, man, you hit me once, you hit me twice, 3 times. At that point, we're basically about to fight. So there's that incident. We actually were hit afterwards because he kind of apologized afterwards, and so did I, because I did feel bad about doing what I needed to do. But hey, I mean, if you're gonna blast me, I think kind of the rule of the gym is if hit as hard as you want to be hit back. So I think that's a good line to go by. Another story. There's one of my training partners. It was one of the first or second. I think it's probably the second time I've gone with him, and we're just going, and same thing. He starts kind of hit me like he was putting some sting to his hook. So I was like, okay, because there's times when you kind of just touch with the hook, but there's times you're just trying to stick people with your hook. So I was getting stuck. So I was like, all right, well, I can't let you just stick me like this, so I got to retaliate. So I kind of hit him, boom, and then he hits me back, boom, and then I'm like, okay, well, boom, and then next thing you know, we're basically halfway fighting, and then so we get done, and then I look at the instructor, and he loved it, because of course, when 2 people are halfway fighting, I'll admit, it is kind of entertaining to watch. But even he was like, wow. And I looked at him, I was like, man, I was being nice to him. And he was like, man, you should have just, I want you to just lay him out, just bang. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because he actually did come to my kickboxing class. So I was like, well, I can't just be putting down my students like that. So I was just shocked. And I was like, man, I was being nice to him. So after that, then I realized he likes to just go hard. And then funny enough, we actually became really good friends, and he actually became my favorite sparring partner, and he actually played a really good role in helping me get ready for my previous fight. Not this most recent one I just posted, but the one before that. And we got some really good quality rounds in, and I really enjoyed it, and it kind of got the blood flowing, got the blood boiling a little bit in a good way, and it was a really good gut check for me. So in that regard, hard sparring can be good, but you just got to be careful. You don't want to do it too often, because you don't want to leave it all in the gym. I remember there's a UFC fighter, his name was Mac Danzig, and he said he had to retire early because he just left it all in the gym. He just would go to gym wars after gym war after gym war and just bang it out. So like I said, that's good, but you got to remember, nobody's getting paid. There's often no cameras, so nobody even sees it. So Do you want to have a gym career and be a gym fighter, or do you want to be an actual fighter? So that's something you got to ask yourself, and you got to think about longevity too. Like I said, for me, I did the hard sparring for 5 years straight, and I got to the point where my legs were so battered I couldn't even walk up the stairs, and that's when I knew it was time to make a change. Yeah, so to sum it up, I actually do personally think you should spend more time working on the technical side, so that way you can preserve yourself for your fight. Because you got to remember, do you want to be the best at fighting, or do you want to be the best at sparring? So that's a decision you got to make. I think if you're going to spar hard, I wouldn't do it too often. I maybe leave it to, depending on when your competition is, I would maybe leave it to 2, maybe 3 days a month. Maybe you go a little bit harder, especially if you have some teammates or you have a friend's like, hey man, I got a fight coming up. Can you give me some good quality rounds? I think that's good. It's good for you. It's good for your training partners, good for your team. But I would not recommend just banging it out especially not every day, of course, but I don't recommend banging it out more than about 2 days. I'd probably keep it to about 1 day a week where you just go a little bit harder, and then have another sparring session where it's a little bit more technical. You do some drills, do some counter punch drills, and just kind of flow, and then maybe get 3 or 4 just kind of live rounds in. So just think about it. Think about the longevity, think about your goals and what you want to accomplish. And I think you'll do well to do a mix of both. All right, so that's the story for today. That's the video. And I appreciate you guys for watching. And like always, just comment below what you guys want to see next. And I appreciate you. See you guys on the next video.